So, the crossover. This video we're going to do a deep dive on what we really think makes for an effective crossover. So let's start by just posing the question, what NBA players are known for their crossover? 3 names that should have popped into everyone's head are 1. Allen Iverson. 2 would be Tim Hardaway, especially with his between the legs cross. And a personal favorite of mine, Chris Paul. So what are attributes we've always associated with an effective crossover? Things like staying low, keeping the ball between our knees, and not letting the ball get too high because it might be easier to steal at that height. So if these NBA guys have the nicest crossovers, shouldn't they be emulating the things that our coaches are teaching us? So here's Allen Iverson. Is he low? Yes. Why is he low? He's short. Should we hold everyone to the same standard as Allen Iverson and Chris Paul in terms of getting low to the ground? Probably not. When I would work out with my coaches, they would always kind of tell me, oh, when you're doing a between the legs cross, try and stay low the whole move. But here we have Tim Hardaway doing it, and the ball's at his shoulder. In this clip coming up, he's standing up the whole time. So our coaches are pretty much asking us to emulate things that these guys aren't even doing. So what inspired this topic for us? We were running a workout last week, and Jawan Daniels, who's 6'7", kept using a crossover against guys that were a lot shorter than him, and the ball just kept coming up really high, which is in complete contrast to everything you've ever been taught in terms of handling the basketball. So it just kind of sparked that question in my mind of, is being low on a crossover important? Or is the most important thing just selling that you're going in one direction and getting as much separation as possible? And what really made me want to dive even further into this is here we have the one crossover that doesn't get wide, and look what happens. As soon as the ball reaches his waist, he gets stripped. So that kind of got me thinking, like, when you're taught to play defense, you get in your stance and you have your arms out. So wouldn't that make a ball at that same height very susceptible to get stolen? And here that's what we're seeing, a really aggressive defender in Patrick Beverley just waiting for the ball to reach one side of a guy's torso, and he's just picking it every time. And you don't exactly need some freakishly long wingspan or crazy athletic gifts to steal a ball that is essentially right where your hand is already placed. So with that being said, I think it's time to redefine what is important about crossovers, and we're going to go over some things we think make a crossover effective in our attempt to break this norm. The first one is going to be starting the ball wide and ending with the ball even wider. If the ball comes up a little in that process, it really doesn't matter. And here we have someone in Scottie Pippen regarded as maybe the best defender ever on the ball, and he's struggling to reach the ball because Allen Iverson has a really good control over the ball. And I think what's gotten lost over time is that control does not equate to low. There's a lot of people that dribble really low, but it really doesn't mean anything. Here's Allen Iverson dribbling at his shoulder, but he has a very good control over the ball. And one thing being wide with the ball does is it makes the defense make decisions. You're always taught on offense, you want to put the defense in a position where they have to make a decision. So if the ball is very wide away from you, the defense now has to make a decision. Follow the ball or follow the body. Another pro to starting and ending wide is you're able to string moves together. Since being wide means the ball is in the air for a longer period of time, this gives you more time to react to your defender with a counter, whether that be a head fake or another crossover. Gives you more time to make a read, which is especially important for younger players. When the ball gets out wide on a crossover and aggressively comes back towards your shot pocket, it makes the defender have to react to you. Whereas if the ball is close to your shot pocket the whole time, it wouldn't keep your defender guessing as much. next part's going to be the off arm, which is really important. You see Chris Paul gets into this crossover, the off arm dips towards the ball to sell a drive. Same thing. This is me in college, the off arm dips towards the ball. It's just really important that when you're selling anything, that the other side of your body gets involved in that. Another thing that's going to go hand in hand with that off arm is when the arm reaches over, just try and get your head to turn. It's just going to sell the drive in that direction that much more effectively. Here you see Derrick Rose, foot hits the floor, off arm comes to the ball, crossover. And just for some context, here you see Derrick Rose just driving in a straight line. And when he's about to drive, there's his off arm coming out. And lastly, just throwing the ball as hard as you can through the floor, not necessarily caring where it is. Here you see James Harden throwing the ball incredibly hard at the ground. Same thing here. He doesn't exactly shift the defender, but he throws the ball so hard that that reaching hand just can't get to the ball in time because he throws the ball as hard as he can. Here's Isaiah kind of putting it all together. You see by the time his left foot hits the floor, he's got his arm, he's got his head turned, throws the ball really hard to his other hand, gets right into a shot, he's wide open. So breaking the rhythm. We always say if you can set a rhythm, you can break a rhythm, and no one gets to tell you when you can break your rhythm. So here's Kyrie, he's setting his rhythm's very slow, and he breaks his rhythm aggressively with the hardest crossover I've ever seen in my life. This part was interesting too. If you watched our last video, CJ McCollum coming at his same exact defender, same exact crossover, it's just a slightly different rhythm and it just keeps his defender off balance. And here's Isaiah again, now just paying attention to the slow rhythm before that crossover. So this next clip is just something from a workout with the girls at Long Island Lutheran High School that I just figured you guys should see. So the main point there being, when it's time to break your rhythm, you have to do that as aggressively and as fast as possible, because very rarely do you see someone start with a really fast setup dribble and then the crossover is really slow. 9 times out of 10, you probably see it the other way around, and here it's just kind of a timeline of me working on that with Emma Von Essen, one of the players at Lou High. Is just starting off with a slow rhythm and then learning how to break that rhythm into a really aggressive crossover.
Like, your feet have to separate. Holy.
And just understand, over the course of those months, never was it an emphasis to be dribbling lower to the ground, because there's just so many more factors that are more important to selling a crossover than being low to the ground. And understand, the point of this video is not to say dribbling the ball low is something you shouldn't be able to do, because, I mean, in this play in particular, I don't know how Isaiah Thomas gets out of this situation if he's dribbling at his shoulder height. But for this topic of crossovers, I don't think we need to focus on being as low to the ground. I think we need to focus on selling a move and looking like we're running in one direction. I mean, at the end of the day, just think about it. What is the goal of a crossover? A crossover is something you're supposed to use to create separation from your defender. So if you can get away from your defender, it really won't matter how low you are, because there's nobody near you to steal the ball. And if you can get low to the ground and do a crossover because you're 5'7", that's great. You just also have to understand that you're low to the ground because you're 5'7". Low is a spectrum. So there's high and there's low, and it's very important to master both of those things. So yes, when Kobe gets into this crossover, he is sinking low to the ground, but look where the ball is. It's at his shoulder. You just have to look like you're running in a direction. So if you're really low to the ground and that's not where you run, you shouldn't be that low. And also just understand there's a time and place for everything. So when you see good defense being played on these two plays in particular, I don't think it's because the crossover itself wasn't low enough. I just think they chose a bad move at a bad time. And if you need any more evidence, this is Shaq. So if we're going to look at this chart as kind of the norm of what the keys to a good crossover are, this is what we think that new list should be.